You can be crushing it for clients and still be underpaid and overlooked. If that hits a little close to home, you're likely facing a value gap. And you're not alone. Most agencies stay stuck there far longer than they realize. Today, we're digging into why that happens and how to shift out of the value gap with my guest, Mandy Alfson. Let's jump in. Welcome to the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you want to grow an agency to 7 figures and beyond without working more hours in your business, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Audrey Joy Kwan. I know what it takes to build an agency, including supporting an agency owner in selling and exiting. I also have a master's degree in communications, specializing in organizational development. My team and I have worked behind the scenes of multiple 7-figure agencies and have coached and consulted with over 150 agency owners. All this to say, when you join us on the Small But Mighty Agency podcast, you get real-world experience and practical tips that help you work less, earn more, and lead with integrity. So let's go. Hey friends, today we're talking about something that trips up so many consulting firms and agencies. It's positioning. You can be delivering incredible results and still find yourself underpriced, overworked, and overlooked. That's because clients don't buy deliverables or processes. They buy outcomes. And how you position those outcomes makes all the difference in whether you're stuck, grinding, or scaling sustainably. And to help unpack this, I've invited Mandy Alfson, founder of Hands Off CEO. She's worked with businesses to rethink their competitive power. And today we're digging into her concept of the 3 levels of competitive power. Most firms plateau at level 2, successful but stuck, while a select few break through to level 3, where they're seen as strategic growth partners with premium clients. We'll explore why agencies get stuck, what it takes to move up, and how to position your value so growth feels sustainable. Mandy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Audrey.
Yeah, before we jump in, if you're running a small but mighty agency, you've probably felt this. You're delivering great work, your clients love you, but somehow it still feels like you're hustling for recognition, juggling too much, or bumping against a ceiling. That's why this conversation matters. We're going to look at how positioning changes the way clients see you and how a few key shifts can move you from being seen as just a doer to being trusted as a true partner. That's the difference between growth that really drains you and growth that actually feels sustainable. So Mandy, a lot of agencies deliver great results, but still end up in that underpriced, overworked, and overlooked position. From your perspective, why does that happen?
Well, doing good work, doing good quality, that's really not enough. That's just expected that you do good quality. It's expected that you have good customer service. But really what they're hiring you for is to be able to move the needle in their business. So it's looking at what can we leverage in our company right now so that we can charge a higher price point. And most companies, they don't actually know what to leverage. They look at, well, we have skills here. We have worked with people like this and we're going to leverage that. But really what makes the biggest difference in terms of, whether you can charge $100,000, $200,000, even $1 million for services is being able to leverage past results, being able to leverage the right success conditions to be able to deliver really exceptional results and knowing what the results and building your processes to actually deliver real tangible results as opposed to just deliverables.
Yes, 100% results, and being able to communicate those results is key to perception and value for anyone who's shopping for services. Now, I know you've described a pattern using the concept of the 3 levels of competitive power. Can you walk us through those levels?
Yeah. So, all right, there's 3 different levels, and these 3 different levels are really defining at what level you're really able to price in the market, at how you're seen as really a growth partner or an executor, a technician. So level 1 is executor technician, right? They take what they get. Level 2 is strategic implementer. This is where a lot of really good firms are, a lot of good agencies. They, as you were saying, that small mighty, I love that term, by the way, because you can really deliver a very big impact as a small company. And strategic implementers, they're they get trapped in this place because they do good work, but they're not necessarily able to tie it to the end outcome. And then we have level 3, where we have the strategic growth partner. And these are the companies that really are able to command top pricing, and they're able to build real leverage in their model so they can charge a much higher price point.
That's such a helpful way to frame it. And it explains why growth can feel hard, even when things on the surface for an agency can look successful. Now, you mentioned that at level 2, that's where a lot of businesses, agencies get stuck. Now, why do so many successful businesses stay stuck at level 2 versus being able to hop into level 3?
Well, what's going on is that there is some commonalities with level 2 and level 1. Level 1 is like, we're the executor and like, we're going to do this. You tell us what you want us to do and we'll do it. And you're really a generalist for hire and you don't really know what you're doing. That's basically what it comes down to. And as you get more experience, as you get better and better at what you do, you graduate to this strategic implementer. But what happens is some of those bad habits from level 1, where some companies still at this level 2, they're still charging by the hour. Or even if they're charging like by the month, they're still thinking in billable hours. They're still thinking in, well, you know what, we're going to do more for the client, so we'll get more. So it's very linear thinking, that what you're doing when you're scaling your company is you're scaling by headcount. You're not scaling real profits, and you're scaling headaches. And you'll have to be able to hire more people to be able to continue generating more growth, which ultimately is, you can get your economies of scale that way if you want to just keep on doing bigger and bigger and bigger, but you turn into a commodity type of service, and you're really at odds where you are looking at, well, for us to make more money, we just need to do more stuff for our clients. And the client is looking at this and saying, well, like, we're going to do this thing, it's just going to be more hours, right? So they don't really know that the hours are going to necessarily generate a great result for them or not. So you're really at a point where you're at odds. So what happens is that you tend to be more reactive to client-defined problems. You're competing on execution still. Just like with level 1, you're still competing on execution.
With all the disruption right now that's happening in our markets, the idea of staying at just the execution level is dangerous.
Right.
Because there's a lot of technology out there that can come in and just wipe that out. And I think that's what we're really pointing at here, is to future-proof an agency, to future-proof your business, you've got to hop into the next stage. And so level 1, the execution stage, is the stage that we have to be really careful of because of what's coming down the pipeline right now. Level 2, which is the strategic level, now that's the level we all want to start moving into. And if you're already there, amazing. Now, if someone's not already at that level 2 space, what are a few key things you recommend that they be doing? Maybe 2 or 3 tips right now that will level them up into level 2.
Right. It's that, start thinking about outcomes. I would just be first looking at raising your bar. Now, in order to raise your bar, we have to be solving problems that are much higher level. And a lot of that can just be eliminated by eliminating the bad clients. So then to progress in level 2, you need to then look at, what is a higher quality problem that we can solve? Who are we going to solve it for? You have to become better.
Okay. In order to hit level 2, we have to really change the problems that we're solving, or at least see the problems that we're solving with new eyes. Now, with my agencies and my clients, I have something that I call a listening exercise. And I think the listening exercise is really important because it aligns to very much what you're saying right now. We have to be solving for bigger problems if we want to be making more money in the agency and also be sustainable. Because if we solve for a problem that might be, let's say, for example, obsolete, and I think a good example of what can be obsolete is something that AI could potentially do. So if you're solving for a problem that AI could potentially solve right now, that problem is obsolete. And if those problems are disappearing because you've got this disruption, then the next step is looking for the bigger problems. And the idea of a listening exercise is taking the moments when you're working with your clients to really hear what are the challenges that are in their business right now, and how can you become the partner to solve those challenges. And I think once you step into solving those bigger problems, you step into more of that strategic partner space. But strategic partner, I think, can also be defined in different ways. And it's, yes, solving a bigger problem. I've also found that when you align yourself as a strategic partner to a business, what you're really saying is, hey, I'm able to look around the corner for you. You're now this expert who can come in and say, I know what's around the corner for you. It's going to come up for you, and I'm getting in front of it. I think that's very strategic as well. That's also part of partnership. And I feel like with a lot of agencies, that's where the market is shifting to. It's in that space where you're close to the industry, you're close to the niche, that you're not just a person being told what the challenges are coming down the pipeline. You can almost, for lack of a better word, future cast into it, and then come in as that, that relationship with your client to help them navigate things that they don't even see.
Well, my thoughts on that is that a lot of companies struggle with that, because what you're actually describing is the leadership that they need to be bringing. And that means having the courage to have the hard conversations. It means also, like on an emotional level, being okay with not being liked. Because to be able to have those conversations, you have to care more about the result and the impact for the business than getting approval from them. And the whole fear of not being liked thing is something that a lot of business owners run into. And for that reason, they don't take a stand for their clients. They invalidate they'll sit there quietly and maybe complaining to their team. They're like, oh, they don't listen to our advice. They don't take on the advice. Like, you haven't made a compelling enough argument for it. You haven't been someone that's difficult to say no to. And the problem is that if the CEO is not modeling it, their team absolutely cannot either. So then what that looks like also, even if the owner is able to do that, you still have to then train that skill within your account managers and be able to help them do that. And a lot of account managers are people pleasers.
Let's plug into that more, because I think the root of being a challenger, and I'm careful with the word challenger because there's good challenging and there's bad challenging. And so, good challenging is coming into a conversation with insights and ideas and being able to back those things up. Right? That's really good challenging. Bad challenging is when you're aggressive, and no one wants to, work with anyone who's aggressive. So on the topic of good challenging, I think that the fear around that is losing clients. And I think anytime an agency owner, a CEO is afraid to lose clients, they tend to lean on, well, let's soft glove this, right? Let's be careful with this. And I think
make them happy.
Yeah, make them happy. And I think that translates to account managers who then feel like their job is to make the client happy versus provide strategic insight. I'm not saying those two are mutually exclusive. I think they can be inclusive of each other, but there has to be a carefulness of being able to ensure your account managers and you understand the priority. And I think we're in a season right now where the priority is strategics. And I think if you can deliver those strategics, you will have happy clients.
Here's the thing is most agencies would consider themselves as strategic. When you actually look at their client base, what you will actually see is that they have a whole mixture of clients between level 1 and level 2. And their better clients are going to be at level 2 where they're generating results. But still, if you are offering strategy, I mean, that's great. You're offering strategy. You're still doing something though, right? And the strategy, I mean, you hope that it's going to get a result, but really what clients actually want is that they want to know that there is a pathway to a bigger vision. And you can do that individually, each one of your clients, but it's pretty difficult to scale that. So instead, this would be a good segue into level 3, is to look at how do we be able to scale our company by defining a more expansive outcome. And this goes beyond maybe even the work that you have been doing in the past. It's looking at your best case studies. It's looking at the work that you're already doing that's working really well. And you're asking yourself, all right, what do these things have in common? And what are the success conditions that we need to do our best work? What was missing in these other projects that just totally fell off, right? And understanding, like, what are the main success conditions that we need to be able to deliver our best work? And then looking back and say, okay, well, if we had this budget and if we had this buy-in and if we were working with this market that we were really good at, what might be possible if we work together over a year period of time? And what would be possible over, a 3-year period of time? And then you start looking at a bigger vision and you get really clear on the problem that you're solving. And then when you do that, then you can start looking at like what might be possible in those situations. But that takes a different way of thinking. It takes starting with the end in mind and then building backwards.
One of the things I talk a lot about is specialization. And it is through specialization that the big outcome they can achieve for the clients is defined. And I say that because when you have a specialization, you're deeper into the problems with the client, because a problem in one industry may not even exist in another industry, or it might exist in a different form. And so having that so-called insider knowledge really allows you to shape your outcome to be something of extreme value for that industry. And I have found with my clients, when they choose to step into a specialization, they're able to dig into those problems with a lot more depth. And by digging into the depth of the problem, they're also able to understand the outcomes they're able to achieve. And
Exactly.
wrapping offers around the outcomes is really what we're talking about. So it's not just like this blind following of, well, if I look outside my agency, there are 5 other agencies with offers that look like this, therefore I should have an offer that looks like that. That is mediocre. And so mediocre doesn't work. And what we're talking about is this inside out perspective of looking inside your agency, identifying what is it that you do well for something that is specific, and being able to deliver on that constantly. And when you're able to do that, and I've seen this, including the agency that I came alongside, helped to sell and exit, one of the key things that create that outcome is consistent results. And not only consistent results, but also creating that word of mouth that exists. When you do something well for an industry, that word of mouth becomes very natural.
Right.
And so people start talking and your pipeline gets filled more organically that way. So I really resonate with how you shared that. Now, you said the word invisible advantage. Tell us more about, what do you mean by invisible advantage?
Right. So I'm going to use an analogy in the investing world. So how do people become wealthy? Well, they use leverage. They use leverage. Oftentimes they use other people's money, but they have some advantage they can leverage to be able to generate more of it, to be able to generate cash flow assets. And this is what's interesting is that a lot of business owners are not investing in their companies in that same way. And I think one of the big reasons why that is because they have no leverage. They don't have enough confidence in what they have to really be investing in it. So the invisible advantage is their leverage. It's their leverage to be able to build their company as a wealth building asset, that you build your entire business around this invisible advantage. I'll give you an example of Wally and his invisible advantage. And Wally has gone through this process where he, just for context, so how he has leveraged his marketing skills to solve increasingly bigger and higher quality problems. I've watched him be able to go take his offer from $2,500 to $1 million offers. And the reason why is he's no longer an agency. His company is not an agency. They are a growth partner for manufacturing firms that help them add $10 million of additional value to their company. That's worth $1 million a year, right? So that took something for him to be able to actually uncover that and continue to build the results. So it didn't start off at $1 million offer, but started off with taking it to 25,000, but looking at it and saying, what are the success conditions that we need to do our best work? Like, what is the problem that we could apply our skills to that we could deliver a really big outcome for? And what would it take to deliver even a bigger outcome? And that's how Wally was able to go and move from, being a mix between level 1 and level 2, and where he was continuing to start specializing, and then to grow beyond even an agency.
I often remind agency owners, clients aren't buying your process. They're buying the outcomes that they can't achieve without you. And I think that's such a key mindset shift. Small but mighty agencies, they thrive when they stop competing on process and start owning their transformation. And that's such an important distinction you've highlighted there. It's not about charging more just to charge more. It's about aligning price with transformation.
So the biggest thing that I see that drives these results is confidence. It's confidence. And the confidence comes from when it's clearly laid out for, this is exactly what we're offering. And them knowing, if we have these things in place, I know that I can confidently show up to this conversation and know if they have these things, then they can really lean in. They can really show, this is what I see possible for you. And what it does for their energy is it completely shifts. I'll give you an example of Christy. So when Christy found her invisible advantage, She's working with therapists and she's looking at this and saying, okay, we do SEO services and like we charge this amount and I can't deliver consistent. I don't know what they're going to get, like I can't guarantee if you're going to place on Google. I can't guarantee that. Right. But she has some really incredible processes that actually, if operated under the right conditions and the right budgets, at minimum, they can add $500,000 of gross to those companies. And now if you're taking therapy practices that have multiple locations, maybe there's 3 locations, that's $1.5 million extra a year, right? She did not feel confident looking at it that way until she could understand what they'd have to have in place. There was this moment where it switched for her. And in that moment, she realized, like, I can only do one of these locations for each market. So like, I cannot do it for any less than this. She went out and she increased her price point 250% with all of her clients. She said, what we're going to be doing is we're adding an extra $500,000 to your business in the next 12 months. And what I need from you is this budget because I can't do it for any less than that. I'm not willing to do it any less than that. And what we're probably going to be having a price increase on top of that. Every one of her clients said yes to that.
Hearing every single one of our clients said yes is amazing, because if you are listening, you might think, oh, if I went ahead and did that, I'd be losing clients.
Yeah, you would. In most cases, you would be. This is an anomaly.
Sometimes you have to shoot for a different type of client in order to build the business that you want. And if you want to have a business that charges at that super high ticket level, then the problem that you solve has to be incrementally bigger, but the promise on the other side of it has to also be big. And in order to achieve some of the outcomes, it requires a really honest look at conditions. And an example of a condition, especially if we're looking at digital marketers, is things like ad spend. Someone who's going to spend $500 a month with you versus someone who spends $50,000 a month with you are going to get different results. And I think that's the reality of a pay to play space. And if you are going to be promising people these larger results, the conditions with which you need to have to do it have to be real and honest. And that's what allows you to actually raise your prices, because you're going to know that the person who pays you $500 a month for ad spend, $1,000 for a month per ad spend, they're going to have a much different operating expense for marketing than someone who can actually give you $50,000 for ad spend. And that allows you to, of course, raise your prices. Someone who gives you $50,000 a month for ad spend, they're going to be able to pay you a much higher premium retainer. And so I wanted to just pull that out because it is important to understand the conditions for success and lay those conditions down and reevaluate who your ideal client is and go to market with that reality. Now, Mandy, you have said success has a lot to do with mindset. Share a bit about the mindset that you have had in your business.
Yeah, the mindset is critical. And like I was mentioning, that what really drove those results for Christy was that the confidence and the belief that she had in this offer and how bought in she was to that. And that's where she raised her bar and got them to raise along with her. And they all increased their budget because she gave them a compelling enough vision. So back to your question about like how I have developed my own mindset on this. I have invested in myself at times when it was painful, when I had no money, when I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I invested in my earning potential so that I can then go and use those skills to make more money, to be able to build assets that then I can build more wealth off of. The core critical mindset piece is that I believe in me. I believe in what I can build and I can do, and I'm investing in myself, and I invest heavily in myself because I know I'm worth it. And I know that my business is going to be better for it. Everyone in my business will be better for it. And also, like, it tangibly improves the quality of life for my family. So that's the number one thing I do.
Untangling mindset from success is really difficult because who we are, we bring to the business. For me, mindset is daily rituals. I have a morning practice that really helps me zone back in on what's important. If it's not important to me, I won't put 100% effort into it. And yes, I think investing is important. Growth happens when you're learning from others, when you're learning in community, and there's no way to go faster than to have that type of support. Now, for a small but mighty agency, what's one practical step that you think they could take this week for stronger positioning?
Well, focus on the right constraint. You're going to have to come to grips with the fact that where you're at right now has, as a result of maybe decades of practices that have gotten to you to where you're at. So you might need to invest something to be able to get out of that. And when I'm talking about investing, I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about time. Investing your time to be able to create a new set of circumstances where all of the problems that you're dealing with right now do not exist. So what a lot of people do at this stage is they solve the wrong problem. So what that really does is it just adds more complexity, and it doesn't actually solve the root problem. You need to be able to generate more leverage so you make more cash flow, more profitability. So we got to solve that first, which is that your business is not delivering enough value as perceived by your clients to be able to charge a high enough price point, to be able to have enough cash flow and enough profits to be able to remove you from the day-to-day.
This conversation has really surfaced that as an agency owner, if you want to get bigger retainers, you can't just slap on a price tag and expect the market to pay you that because you said that you're deserving of it. That doesn't fly. You hear that in the market too, Mandy, where people say, well, charge what you're worth.
I'm worth it.
And the whole charge what you're worth has its value because yes, you are valuable. The service you provide is valuable, but there is also a market cap for a lot of things. And if your promise or deliverable or your ROI isn't at a specific level, the reality is, no, you can't be charging $100,000 a month retainer. But there is a world where those retainers exist. And I think the core concept here is evaluating the problems that you're solving. And if a business owner had an hour this week, I think the one key thing they can do is ask themselves, what big problems are we solving? If you can understand the big problems, there's more opportunity to develop the offer around it that could potentially be that $100,000 retainer per month.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, it was so great having you here. Now, if someone wanted to find you, where could they do that?
Well, if you go to handsoffceo.com/book, you can get a copy of my book. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, and my name is spelled MandiEllefson, kind of a mouthful, Mandy Ellefson, but I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So that's how you can get in touch with me.
Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate you today.
It was so nice being here. Thank you so much, Audrey.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with me at the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you hit the follow or subscribe button in your podcast app and share it with a friend. I'll see you on the next one.